Welcome to Bible Fiber, where we explore the textures and shades of the biblical tapestry. I'm Shelley Neese, president of the Jerusalem Connection, a Christian organization dedicated to sharing the stories of Israel's people, both ancient and modern. I'm also the author of the book, Bible Fiber, a 52-week study of the 12 minor prophets available on Amazon. We have finally made it to the last book of the Torah. Deuteronomy is Moses' magnum opus, his farewell speeches to the people he has led out of Egypt and into the wilderness. They are finally at the cusp of entering the promised land, and what Moses and everyone with him understand is that he will not be accompanying them for this final portion. While the Israelites camp on the plains of Moab and prepare to cross the Jordan River, Moses has some parting words for them. They are likely scared and anxious about what lies ahead, but Moses reassures them that if they stay true to God and live lives according to the covenant laid before them, they will be blessed. He uses his final days with them to reflect on their journey, reiterate all they have learned together, and reinforce the covenant God made with the nation. This week our Torah portion covers Deuteronomy 1:1 to 3:22. And the section is called Devarim, which means words, because this section starts out with, "These are the words Moses spoke to all Israel." The old generation of Israelites who Moses brought out of Egypt had passed during the wilderness wanderings, and now a new generation was prepared to take possession of the land the Lord swore to their fathers. Moses marveled at the nation's size and strength. He said, "God has increased your numbers so that today you are as numerous as the stars in the sky." In his first speech, Moses takes the opportunity to recount all that has happened in the preceding 4 decades leading to this moment. He includes both the highs and the lows. Moses reminds the assembly about their departure from Mount Sinai. He recalls his appointment of judges and tribal leaders. He details the failed mission of the 12 spies and the previous generation's rebellion against God at Kadesh Barnea. He reminds them that because of the first generation's lack of faith, he made them wander in the desert for 40 years. He urges them to trust God as they enter the Promised Land and take on new challenges. Their recent military victories are proof that God is faithful and fighting alongside them as they fulfill their calling. He reminds them how they defeated King Sihon of the Amorites and King Og of Bashan, and that was before they even entered the land of Canaan. Moses says, "You have seen with your own eyes all that the Lord your God has done to these 2 kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms over there where you are going. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God himself will fight for you." Given the strength of Moses' message, it seems the 120-year-old prophet had lost his original fear of speaking to the people. He is now a strong, wise, and experienced orator, and yet sadness tinges the whole book. Moses, the people, and even the modern reader know that he is about to die. We have known he was going to die since Numbers 20. I did not discuss the action or punishment that led to this moment back when we were studying Numbers because I wanted to save it for Deuteronomy when the full consequence takes effect. As you recall, Numbers is the book of movement and rebellion. As the years of wandering drag on, the people grow upset with Moses' leadership. Although the real target of their anger is God, they put Moses in the hot seat. First, they grumble about the lack of food. Then they protest the lack of variety in God's miraculous provision. When Korah challenges Moses' leadership, the people do not defend Moses. By the time we reach Numbers 20, Moses has reached his breaking point. His sister Miriam had just died, and he and his brother Aaron were grieving the loss of their sister. This would have been the right moment to give Moses a little space, but instead they confronted him about their lack of water. In the most ungrateful tone possible, they quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord." They're talking about back in Egypt. God instructs Moses and Aaron to retrieve the special staff from the Holy of Holies. In the presence of the whole assembly, Moses was supposed to speak to the rock and tell it to produce water. Instead, Moses made a slight improvisation and struck the rock twice with the staff. As the water gushes out of the rock and all the people and even their animals drank their fill, God condemned Moses for his action. In one of the Torah's more chilling condemnations, God says to both brothers, "Because you did not trust in me to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I give them." The episode is one of those moments in the Torah that theologians must wrestle with as they seek to discern God's mercy and justice. Why would God require such a harsh punishment for what seems to be such a small offense? Also, how is striking the rock instead of speaking to it a denial of God's holiness? It seems like such a small deviation. Jacob Milgram wrote the commentary on Numbers for the Jewish Publication Society. And as a Torah expert, he does not accept that the punishment resulted from striking the rock. Instead, he argues that the true sin of Moses and Aaron was verbal, because right before he struck the rock, he told the people, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock?" By asking the people if we must bring water out of the rock, Moses and Aaron claim credit for the divine miracle. Using the first person plural, the brothers made it seem like the power came from them rather than from God. Milgram explains the severity of this subtle shift in language. By word and act, Moses is appropriating to himself an act to God. Sure, it was just a verbal misstep, but it was one that God could not accept. Moses had been their leader for so long that the community risked equating him with God. Jacob Milgram concludes that the punishment was harsh but necessary. The Israelites were still learning to worship an invisible God. Any indication that Moses and Aaron were personally responsible for a miracle would mean that they were the ones to be worshipped, and not God. We learn from Moses' first speech in Deuteronomy that he had a slightly different understanding of his punishment than what was presented in Numbers 20. As is always the case, the Bible is the best commentary on the Bible. Moses reveals that after the incident of striking the rock, he had 10 months to plead with God, hoping he would change his mind and allow him to enter into the promised land. God denied his request. Moses blames the Israelites' behavior for his punishment, more than any action on his part. Twice in his farewell address in Deuteronomy, he reminded them of their hand in his rejection. They may miss him when he's gone, but they are not innocent, and he is paying the price for their lack of faith. Remembering the incident, Moses said, "Even with me the Lord was angry on your account, saying, 'You shall not enter there.'" Later he adds, "But the Lord was angry with me because of you, and he would not listen to me. The Lord said to me, 'Enough from you, never speak to me again of this matter.'" It was the Israelites who put God to the test in demanding water, not Moses. They were the source of his frustration in that moment. Still, he was not innocent either, whether he was punished for failing to follow God's instructions exactly or whether it was claiming the miracle as his own. Despite the tragic ending of the story of Moses, one moment of questioning did not forever tarnish Moses' legacy. Moses is remembered as one of the most pivotal and celebrated biblical leaders throughout Jewish history. Numbers describes Moses as the humblest man on the face of the earth. In his epitaph in Deuteronomy 34, it is said, "Never since has there arisen a prophet in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face." It's a horrible, depressing truth that Moses, our hero throughout 4 of the 5 books of the Torah, is denied entrance into the Promised Land. However, with an epitaph like that, written by God himself, he clearly got a lot more right than he did wrong. That's it for this week. If you would like to get the study questions that go with the reading, please visit our website at thejerusalemconnection.us. Shabbat Shalom and Am Israel Chai. Numbers describes Moses as the humblest man on the face of the earth. And in his eulogy in Deuteronomy 34, it is said, "Never since has there arisen a prophet in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face." It is a horrible, depressing truth that Moses, our hero throughout 4 of the 5 books of the Torah, is denied entrance into the Promised Land. However, However, with a eulogy like that written by God himself, Moses clearly got a lot more right than he did wrong. That's it for this week. If you'd like to see the study questions that go with the reading, please visit our website at thejerusalemconnection.us. Shabbat Shalom and Am Israel Chai.